8. The motion is agreed to.
Road User Charges Bill, third reading.
Call on Government Order of the Day number 2.
National Animal Identification and Tracing Bill, third reading.
Mr Speaker.
Honourable David Carter.
Mr Speaker, I move that the National Animal Identification and Tracing Bill be now read a third time. Mr Speaker, agriculture is a key industry driving our economy. We must maintain our reputation as world leaders in the production of top quality animal products. The Crown and industry have started to work together since 2004 to ensure that we have the quality information we need about livestock. And in that regard, I'd like to acknowledge and pay tribute to the earlier work of Ian Corney, who chaired the initial working group. Mr Speaker, his absolute commitment is one of the reasons that this legislation is before the House tonight. The NATE scheme will support the electronic recording of locations, the people in charge of animals, and the movement of animals between properties, along with other attributes. With NATE, we can give assurances to domestic consumers and our trade partners that the product is healthy and disease-free. We can manage a disease more effectively and rapidly reopen markets if they are closed. Furthermore, the NATE scheme allows for other information to be held in conjunction with mandatory data and can further support improved productivity and on-farm management. The NATE bill sets out the legal framework for the collection of information on livestock, their location and movement history throughout their lifetime. It also outlines the government arrangements and powers for the NATE organisation that will manage the NATE scheme. NATE needs to be mandatory to be effective. The bill will support the introduction of the NATE scheme scheduled for July 2012 for cattle and March 2013 for deer. It was agreed early on in NATE's development that government and industry would share its costs as well as its benefits. Government funded the building of the database and a continuing contribution of 35% of the system's operational costs. The livestock industry groups have provided financial support during the scheme's development and once the bill has passed. During the bill's passage through the House, I have spoken about the history of the project and how we got to this point. Initially, there was a substantial battle with federated farmers, which was difficult, and it led to unnecessary scepticism amongst many farmers. Thankfully, with the new leadership of federated farmers, realism now prevails. With the establishment of NATE, farmers now have the ability to manage stock at the level of an individual animal rather than as a herd. Farmers are able to invest in automated systems to weigh and draft animals according to the criteria that the farmer himself sets, rather than having to assess an animal's condition by eye. Modern farming systems are able to provide labour savings and more accurate responses to market demand. I also expect the NATE organisation to respond to the demands from its levy-paying farmers. Once the NATE scheme is well settled and functioning, the NATE organisation and the Animal Health Board will begin to consolidate their governance and functions. I look forward to the efficiencies and cost savings that will result at both the level of individual levy-paying farmers and the livestock industries themselves. Mr Speaker, I am pleased that most of the parties represented in this House have recognised the importance of this bill and of the NATE scheme. I tonight acknowledge the work of the previous Labor government in developing the NATE scheme and Labor's ongoing support for the NATE legislation. I also acknowledge the long-term commitment and dedication to a successful NATE scheme by all the industry parties that have been involved in NATE Limited itself who is now in charge of delivering the scheme. Mr Speaker, I commend the National Animal Identification and Tracing Bill to the House.
The question is that the motion be agreed to. Grant Robertson.
Thank you very much, Mr